we are joined by the, we'll say the owners, the founders of Operation Mist. And let's start off by, um, introducing yourselves and telling us the meaning of Operation Mist.
So, my name is Katherine Sylvester, and toward the end of my pregnancy, I had some complications that I felt kind of could have been avoided if I had been watching my health a little bit more closely. And so, I am also a physical therapist and a mother of two. And following that delivery, I was sent a watch to be a part of a health study, but ended up using the watch to guide myself back to health. And so that was the genesis of Operation Mist. Noticed that if I could do it for me, maybe we could do it for other moms. So Jessica and I wrote a grant and we won $5,000. We bought four watches, sent them all across the country to moms so that we could figure out if we walk the journey more closely with women, can we in fact catch issues between office visits, guide them to healthier pregnancies, help them avoid unnecessary complications, and we were. And so here we are. Dr. Thompson, please introduce yourself.
I'm Dr. Thompson. I'm also a physical therapist like Katherine. I am somebody who's been passionate about women's health for a long time, even before PT school. And I took one of Dr. Sylvester's courses about women's health, specifically about pregnant women and how we can treat them as physical therapists. And so that's how she kind of found out about my passion for women. And she asked me to kind of go along this journey with her with developing Operation Miss. And I am so grateful for that. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
And you tell is best. So go ahead. She asked us to explain it.
Oh, okay. So Operation Mist is a virtual maternal monitoring program. And all that means is that we are watching women's health data via a watch like the one Katherine has on. And from that watch, we're able to get information. We're getting information about a mother's stress levels, about her heart rate, about her pulse ox, about her sleep quality, her sleep frequency, all of the things that really make someone healthy. And what we do is we don't compare women to other women. We compare them to themselves. So after being on our watch for about a month, we're able to get their baseline. So then we know what is not normal for them. And so it's really great for women in rural communities, women who are not able to go in to see a doctor as much as they want to. So we're able to pick up on things between those doctor's visits. And we're just so happy that we can provide women with that data because it's so powerful so that when they go in to see a physician, sometimes things can get brushed off when you're pregnant, like, oh, you're just pregnant, it's fine. But now they can have some data to back up, like, hey, I'm feeling this way and my data is showing this. What can you do to help me? So it's our solution for the maternal mortality crisis. And we believe that it's not just the data, it's not just the watch, it's the connection that we make with every mom as Miss monitors. They're able to ask questions with us 24/7. We are able to create a bond, and then they just learn how to be better advocates for themselves because Katherine and I are not ever in the delivery room with them. So they're just able to just develop that Miss mentality, like Katherine says all the time, and be empowered to be a better advocate for themselves to improve their outcomes.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I think that that's important. Well, especially women in general, but when we're talking about women in pregnancy, just kind of brushing things off, like, oh, it's just pregnancy, and that's why I can't sleep, you know, or I just don't feel well because, I'm in my third trimester or whatever they may say. I'm just like you said, it's pregnancy, whatever. But it's good to have something to look at to say, oh yeah, we might need to look a little bit closer at this. And like you said, I think it is a good thing, especially for those rural communities here in Georgia, where the ride to your OB or your midwife's office it could be a minute. So if you already have that kind of information that you could get to them, that would be great. That would be great. Um,
What you said about, when women get into the third trimester, they just feel like everything's normal. I'm really tired. I really, I'm uncomfortable. That's why I'm not feeling well. But what we found is that a lot of times it's actually anemia. So they get their
Mhm.
hemoglobin, at the very beginning, and then again, maybe at week 28. But then what happens between week 28 and week 40, or week 28 and week 42? And so sometimes they're able to, or we're able to pick up on some things in their data that says, you know what, maybe you need to go get your hemoglobin checked again. And their doctors do it and oftentimes find that they are anemic, which is good knowing going into delivery, because as Black women, as women, we're dying from bleeding too much. So if we have a little bit more of a reserve going into delivery, then we can come out of it on the other side. And sometimes it's not anemia, sometimes it's their B12 levels. And the thing is, we don't know, but what we know is that something is different and something is not right. And so they're then able to investigate those things with their doctors and have better outcomes.
I think, yeah, that is awesome. Now, not only do you monitor women during pregnancy, but I understand that you monitor women in that preconception time, who are trying to get pregnant, um, maybe even some that are considering fertility treatments, things like that. And also after delivery, postpartum, an important time as well. So let's start with the preconception. What does that look like for a mom?
We love preconception, don't we, Jessica? Because we get to help moms really get their baseline data. So it's not just what's on the watch, but even things like their baseline hemoglobin A1C. So how well is their body doing at getting rid of or managing the sugars that they're eating? So they're able to get that number. They're able to know their baseline blood pressure. So sometimes women have never taken their blood pressure. So then they're able to figure that out. And so we know that some of these numbers can really help them understand how their bodies would tolerate pregnancy when they get pregnant. So that's one thing. The second thing we do is just help them understand their cycles. So for women who want to get pregnant, they sometimes are told, well, you have PCOS. And then they think, oh my goodness, I'm going to have a really hard time getting pregnant. When the reality is, everybody got to check what's coming out of their vagina to see if they're right to get pregnant or not. And so whether you ovulate or you release an egg every month or you release an egg every 6 months, you keep watching, you keep checking your temperatures, you keep looking at what's going on, and you have a better chance of getting pregnant. So we're helping these women so that they can track their cycles and know when the most likely time is for them to actually be successful at getting pregnant. So we've had some women who have gone through fertility treatments and had just different procedures done on different hormones. And then they come to us and they're able to get pregnant because they're just watching the fluid that's in their panties now, right? And so it's like we're able to talk them through that. And then sometimes really it is that women come on and they are nervous about getting pregnant because they've had miscarriages in the past. And so they just want to be healthy in case they do. So they may not have anything in place to not get pregnant. And so they're just, on a hope and a prayer. But then we're able to detect it early. So that's what just recently happened with one of our moms. And we were able to look at her stress and be able to tell that she was pregnant. And because she was so nervous about getting pregnant or having a miscarriage, excuse me, she went into her doctor super early and they were like, well, we can't take you right now. You're going to have to wait. So she went to a direct primary care provider. They did an ultrasound for her. They were and they drew some labs and discovered that her progesterone levels were low, which we know if they're too low, it cannot support a pregnancy. They did some more investigating and found out that the reason she may have had miscarriages in the past was because of that low progesterone. So her mom actually had some issues with progesterone and miscarriages. So we were able to detect that. And then she also had a bleed that if she had continued doing the job that she was doing, that she um, had another adverse outcome this time around, but we were able to help her modify what she does at work so that she wasn't doing those pounding activities that can make it hard to sustain a pregnancy when you have a bleed in the place where she had it. So pre-conception looks like whatever the mom needs it to look like leading into.
That's awesome. I like a lot of times people don't think about And yeah, I mean, most pregnancies are not necessarily planned. Like you said, like you got moms who say, "Hey, I just want to be ready just in case, just want to know what's going on." And and
Yeah.
I think that's a good stance for women in general to have. If your body is able to potentially reproduce. And it is good to know what's going on with your body. Like you talked about, like, okay, getting in and making sure that your body is tolerating glucose. Okay. With the, like you talked about with the A1C test, it says if you, have high blood sugars over time or not, knowing what your blood pressure is doing. If we can get in there and even help women on a path to wellness at that point, and on top of the monitoring that you guys are able to show them, that's just awesome. And the fact that that person went to direct primary care, that makes my heart smile.
I'm telling you, Dr. Evans, we love you. We love y'all and what y'all do. Like, we support it 1000%. It's so needed. It's so needed.
It is. And then I think what you said about the data is so right. We had a mom, she had high blood pressure when she came to us, and she was doing what people tell you to do, like make sure you exercise, make sure you eat right, make sure you hydrate well. And believe it or not, she was over exercising. So during her, she had preeclampsia and her kidneys were affected. And so when that happens, of course, you have to work out differently. You have to eat differently. And so a couple months into Operation M.I.S.T, a couple weeks in, she got off of her blood pressure medication. But a couple months in, she dropped about 30 pounds. She eats really, really healthy now. She does what we call interval training. So instead of doing all of her cardio at one time, she does 3 minutes of cardio, 2 minutes of strengthening, 3 minutes of cardio, 2 minutes of strengthening. And so it gives her heart a chance to rest. And she actually just got pregnant as well and is in a much better, in her words, a much better position to carry this pregnancy in a healthier way because of it. So it really is that when you have data that's telling you, you know what, I'm not liking how you're working or how you're working
Mhm.
or the relationships that you're entertaining or the foods that you're consuming, it really just helps guide the mom. So it's not us all the time saying, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. It is the moms. The goal is for us to guide the moms at first and then take over because they won't be with us forever. Even though, like when Dr. Thompson was saying, we're not in the delivery room, it may be that some moms are like, I'm done with my child, being pregnant. I'm safe through that first year and they move on, but we want them to still be equipped to make healthy decisions from a health lifestyle standpoint.
Yes, that is lasting.
Yeah.
Um, some of those changes and things like that. Especially if you see how um what you're doing is affecting, not waiting until like, okay, I got an appointment in, if this is like preconception, okay, I got an appointment in 6 weeks, I got an appointment in 3 months. And then I go back again in another 3 months. At least in between time, you have information that tells you if what you're doing is working. Or if it's not working, okay, we need to adjust some things. I need to talk to somebody, a professional, whether it's your doctor, health coach, somebody, nutritionist, somebody to help out, that type of thing. So that's awesome. All right. So we talked about preconception. We've talked about pregnancy. And now we're going to talk about my favorite part, postpartum.
Mine too. Mine too. So, what's interesting is the example that Katherine gave of one of our Miss Moms, how we started monitoring her preconception and throughout pregnancy. Postpartum, we were able to detect some negative changes in her data. We were really advocating for her to stay in the hospital for longer than she did, but like most moms, she was ready to go home. And, the providers were ready to send her home, but what we were seeing on our end was something that we knew that she would possibly have to be readmitted. And this is another thing about how it's important that we're not just looking at the data, we're also talking to them and hearing their symptoms, because she had symptoms of shortness of breath and chills and things that she should not have been feeling. And with a lot of urgency from us and data to support that we allow her to make that informed decision to go to urgent care or to a direct primary care. I'm not sure which one she went to, but she then, got seen, and she had to ultimately be seen by a cardiologist because, she was developing fluid around her heart. And I just got back from watching a screening of the Aftershock, the documentary about maternal mortality. And I thought about this Miss Mom because it was so similar. Like we're not sure. We know that she's still here today because, we're monitoring her, but I'm not sure if she would still be here if those things weren't detected, honestly. And it makes me emotional thinking about it, but that's why we love to monitor women postpartum. I also learned today that in Georgia, I think about like 80 to 85% of those maternal mortality cases are postpartum. And, they talked about how, you see on TV and in the media, it seems like people are dying like in the delivery room all the time. And that's not the case. It's really when they're home, they feel good. They have these endorphins. Sometimes they feel fine because they have their baby, but there's so many other things going on in their body that they might be ignoring because they have to tend to their child, and it can lead to adverse outcomes. And it does like 85% of the time for those mortality cases in Georgia, unfortunately. So that's why we love to monitor women for their first year postpartum, because we want to pick up on those things. We want to help guide them to recover gradually or to whatever speed that their body can tolerate. And, we want to encourage them to get their whole village on to support them, to help make meals for them, to, we encourage the father to do the nighttime feeding so they can get the sleep that they need when possible. So there's just so many ways we can help intervene postpartum to avoid those negative outcomes. And I'm so happy that the Miss Mom that we're talking about had a positive outcome overall.
Yeah. And just say there was another mom, and if you're familiar with Kira Johnson, it was the same where she thought she was fine. She had a C-section delivery, and we reached out to her because her data looked weird, looked different. So normally we're used to seeing data kind of go in a certain direction during pregnancy, and then afterwards everything settles down, everything just kind of calms down. Well, her body was not calming down, it was ramping up, and it turned out that she was bleeding, and they had taken her labs at like 6 at night, and so the next time they were going to take it would have been 6 in the morning, but we saw her data change around 8 at night. So we reached out to her. Of course, we were like, how are you feeling? And she said, tired, like drained, just had a baby, so don't worry about me, I'm fine. And we were like, well, can you just see if they'll just check your hemoglobin again? And she was like, yeah, well, they took it at 6 and it was fine. I said, yeah, just ask. And, so she asked and they did it. And it turned out that she was under 6. And so they ended up giving her vision. And within, like, I don't know, it was like an hour or two, her data turned right around and it looked beautiful, just like what we were expecting. But it's like, that's a case where she could have been bleeding for the next 10 hours. They draw the who knows when they read it, but it could have been too late. And so it's like, we can see that, like, we know that not everybody's going to be in that situation, but for the we want to be able to catch and help that, because that doesn't just happen, like Dr. Thompson said, in the delivery room. It happened when they're at home. We know a lady who, she started an organization because her sister died at 5 months post-delivery from a heart issue, from heart failure. And we just don't want that to happen to any of our moms. So we are on them like white on rice after they have that baby, and not just about the monitoring stuff, but just how to care for themselves, how to have support with breastfeeding. If they need to go and see their primary care doctor between going home and their 6-week visit, then we encourage them to do that. Having pelvic health PTs come in the home and teach them how to move around and how to really manage their babies, how to manage their scar tissue if they've had C-section deliveries or vaginal scar tissue, so that 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line, they're not dealing with issues that could have been prevented by them just recovering well.
I think you said a key there, recovering well. I've had a conversation with Miss Patricia Prime not too long ago, where we talked about, a lot of times, whether it's, cultural pressure or the women really do need to get up and get back to work. they're not recovering well because they're not allowing themselves to take the time to take care of themselves, take care of baby, everybody get to know each other, um, getting to know your body again, and trying to figure out what's going on now, with your body, after the changes from pregnancy through delivery into now the postpartum time. So recovering well is very important. And I wanted to say something too. You said about how, women 3 and 5 months postpartum still showing up with issues and things like that. And I think that's important to realize because the pregnancy does not just affect, your uterus and the growing baby and things like that. It takes your entire body, your entire system to the brink of what it can do to support you and baby.
Yeah.
So even after you've gone through a pregnancy and your postpartum, regardless of the outcome for you and for baby and things like that, your body is going through a time period where it needs to heal.
Yes.
And like you said, sometimes some things can go wrong or go left even after they've been released from the OB/GYN's care and things like that. Like you said, with heart issues, some women might have lingering issues with their blood pressure, lingering issues with their blood sugars, and not to mention lingering issues with lower back problems,
Yes.
things like that. Because 6 weeks up, I should be better, and things like that. No, it takes time, and that's where you definitely need to be involving your primary care doctor, because that is likely who the OB wants you to go to if you're talking about other issues beyond pregnancy, and that your body has gone to the brink and it's coming back, and you're having issues. If you're having issues with heart, or getting your iron levels back up, your hemoglobin back up, even afterwards, all of those things, you should be seeing your primary care doctor. And especially if you always want to get yourself back together, but especially if you are planning to get pregnant again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah,
You know,
I just,
love everything that you said. And I think about how if we know what our bodies are doing before pregnancy, then sometimes it can help women decide, well, when do I want to try to get pregnant again? Because if you still up, your body is still aching. I know a lot of women now like to breastfeed longer than the year. And so then their hormones are still kind of out of balance. You can make a more objective decision about when you will try, as opposed to just saying, okay, well, I want to have my kids a year and a half apart, or I want them to be 2 years apart. Sometimes it's what can your body tolerate? And so if we pregnancy as a marathon, we would never go to I mean, most people do not go to run a marathon without training, right? Even the most active people are still trying to get into shape for a marathon. So the question is, why are we not doing that for pregnancy? And I think it's because we don't look at pregnancy for the marathon that it is. Because most women, the most you hear them say is, well, I want to lose weight before I get pregnant because I know I'm going to gain a lot of weight. Okay, that's good. That's step one of a lot of steps that probably needs to be taken. I would say instead of focusing on the number in terms of your fat, then why don't you focus on the distribution of it, your waistline, your heart rate, because we know that those things are going to change as you go farther in your pregnancy. And the stronger your heart is, the better it'll be able to tolerate all of the demand that is placed on it. Because at the end of the day, if someone asked you to run a marathon and your heart was not strong enough, you would pass out. And so
right.
goes up to delivery and she's done nothing for her body from a fitness standpoint, then that's when things can break down.
That's true. That's true. So definitely, we got to be taking care of ourselves before pregnancy, during pregnancy, even after pregnancy. Just taking care of ourselves. This is a another phase in life, another season and stage. That when you cross over into that postpartum time, you're a different person. You're a different person physically. You may be a different person emotionally and mentally, type of thing. So definitely keeping an eye on all of those areas, um, in preparing for it, regardless of if you're trying or not, just being healthy in general. So your body will be in a better position if you do conceive.
Yeah. One thing I just want to say one thing that Dr. Thompson and I have become more aware of in this second year of because it's kind of starting the second year of Operation M.I.S.T, is that those social determinants of health, the transportation, the food, the housing, those things can really, really impact a pregnancy. And so we have been blessed that we know a social worker by the name of Ray Ann who loves on all of our moms. And anytime our mom needs something, she tries to make sure that she can find those resources, whether it's in the community or, I mean, she has so many different connections that the moms can, their stress can be lower, their sleep quality can be higher, their peace of mind. I mean, can you imagine not knowing where you're going to stay and being 8 months pregnant? The amount of stress that places on a woman's body, I don't think that people understand that. That mental stress shows up physically and it really impact outcomes. And so for women who, I know that going to private clinics, that's what we learn, like going to private OBGYN clinics, they may not have the connections to the community that are needed. And there are ones that are like state funded, then they have the connections with the social workers, with the community health organizations. And that way, if a mom needs something that's beyond the OBGYN's ability to give it, because, who wouldn't want to give to a mom who needs something like that? They want to. But in terms of like having the time or the connections to the community, sometimes they don't. And so while we believe in having a lot of different people on our team, lactation consultants, kidney doctors, direct primary care doctors, nutritionists, just a lot of different people, social workers are absolutely invaluable when it comes to the health of a pregnancy and making sure that they recover well.
Awesome. Ladies, this has been great. Like, I always enjoy talking to you guys.
So do I.
But this has been great. How do women or families in general, how do they find out information about joining Operation M.I.S.T?
I am putting our website in the comments. So it's just operationmist.org. You can follow us on Instagram at Operation M.I.S.T. Our phone numbers and emails are on our website, so they can reach out to us directly from there. And we would love to serve anybody. We're serving women in about 10 states right now, so you don't have to be in Georgia like we are to reach out and to get our help, for sure.
Awesome. That is lovely. And like you said, shout out to Direct Primary Care.
Yes.
Girl.
Love y'all.
If you want to know more about what direct primary care is and how it functions and things like that, you can definitely reach out to me at Rejuvenant Family Healthcare. Our Instagram tag, Rejuvenant FHC _Georgia. Our web page, rejuvenantfamilyhealth.com. And just reach out. And if you just want to talk and learn more, I'm always open for it. I love educating the area about direct primary care. So I am here if you need me.
Oh my gosh. And we have to shout back out to you because we fell in love with Dr. Evans at a community event here in Macon called It Takes a Village. And when she was given the floor, what she told the people listening was make sure that if you have symptoms, that they're investigated. If you have questions, that they're answered. And that has really, when I tell you that just those two pieces of advice, when we give that piece of advice, those pieces of advice to our moms, it makes all the difference in the world because they understand that a doctor told us that. We're like, we're not telling this, like a provider told this to us. So just make sure that you ask your questions. And so we so appreciate you and everything that you do, the attention that you pay to your clients and the time that you take to really get to know them so that you can give them the best care possible. We are so grateful to providers like you.
Well, I appreciate it. I thank you.